Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today on Everyday Lutheran. In today's Bible study, we're beginning a new series in which we're looking at each book of the Bible. And for each book, we're going to spend 10 minutes on each one. In today's Bible study, we're starting it off then with the very first book, Genesis. So let's get started. Well, first we need to really talk about what is Genesis. Genesis is the first book of the Bible, and it shows us the new beginnings of where God has created the world and all that exists within it. But we go even further into the relationships of humanity and God, and even through this relationship, God is still active in the world among the creation of the animals, in the creation of the humankind, and even the struggle that it continues. The struggle where humankind separates itself from God. Well, before we get too far, let's dive into the very beginning, in which we have the creation stories. Now, truly, there are two creation stories, and the first one highlights in chapters 1 and 2 how creation was really done in 7 days, where 6 days where God created all aspects of the world, from the animals to the creatures to the plants, and even humankind. Each one having their own role, each one having their own purpose, and in the midst of it all, we bear witness to the complexities and the simplicities that God has in store for everything. But on the seventh day, God rested. The second creation story comes in Genesis 2 through 4, and it's here where we also have a familiar story of the Garden of Eden and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of everlasting life. Now, Adam, the first created humankind, was given the direct command that he shall not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or of the tree of everlasting life. However, humankind wanted more than what God had given to them, and so they ate of that fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. This is what is more commonly known as the fall. A separation from God and humankind, and a placing a barrier between the relationship in which there is constantly a struggle, in which humankind wants to be God for themselves. Genesis goes on to unfold the story of how God goes to restore the creation, restore that relationship among humankind and himself in Noah and the ark, where God gives the command to Noah to take 2 of every kind of the animals and place them upon this ark, taking his own family, that the entire relationship among creation and humankind may begin anew through Noah, after God has wiped away the entire world through the flood. After Noah and the ark, humankind goes on and realizes that they are not able to restore a good relationship with God. And God understands that they struggle to truly be what it is God has created them to be. After the ark, Noah goes on to live his life to repopulate the world, and yet it is unfolding for him and for God a realization that a relationship with God and humankind struggles. So God chooses a different path. Instead of destroying the world, God selects one man, Abram, to become the father of many. And his name, Abram, is important for us to recognize because Abram is Hebrew for father. Abram is given a promise in which he will be the father of many. However, there's also a struggle in this. There's a struggle because Abram is already old, and he wonders, how will God fulfill this promise? But it does not start where Abram already is. No, Abram must go from the place where he already lives, the city of Ur, and go to a promised land, a place where he's never been, a place where he does not know where it is until God reveals it to him. And so Abram takes his family, wife Sarai, and all their possessions, and they go on a journey, traveling from where it is they were to this promised land. Here, Abram has 2 sons. The first son, though, is born of a handmaiden, Hagar, and his firstborn son is named Ishmael. His second son, the son born to his wife Sarai, is named Isaac. Now this leads us to a crossroads. Who is the one who shall inherit the promise of God? Will it be Ishmael, who the Muslims claim to be descended from? Or will it be Isaac, whom Jewish people and Christians declare to be descendants from? As I am a Lutheran and a Christian, I am going to be following the path of Isaac. But this distinction of these two sons sets forth an idea of where will the promise live and where will it reside. Because in the story of Genesis 22, we have the name of a beloved son being omitted from the story in which Abram goes and sacrifices that son. But before he does, God stops him with an angel to test his own faith. Isaac goes on from that place into the world and makes his own life for himself, having that promise of God, going forth to find a wife, family of his own. And it is from Isaac where he lives in the promised land, but he also struggles with others over whose flock is whose power is whose. Isaac goes on to have two children of his own, Esau, the firstborn son, and Jacob, the second-born son. Yet even here it is not a clear distinction, because Jacob steals his brother Esau's birthright and the blessing that God would be passing on to Esau. Yet God honors the blessing. God honors the promise and gives it to Jacob. And it is in the struggle and wrestling with God where Jacob is given a new name of Israel. As Jacob goes on, he has his own family and he has 12 sons. These 12 sons goes on. And one son stands out, Joseph. Now Joseph is the beloved son of Jacob or Israel. He also has a gift given by God in which he is able to interpret dreams. Now interpreting dreams is a great gift, because that is a way that he is able to understand how God is going to impact the world. However, the way he reveals those dreams, even to his own family, causes its own tension. In one such dream, Joseph bears witness to his own brothers and says, I had a dream in which we were out in the fields working and harvesting grain, and yet my grain was standing upright, and your grain fell down almost to bow to my grain. It caused tension. It caused jealousy among the brothers. And it caused those brothers, along with the love that his father, Israel or Jacob, shown to Joseph, caused them to be jealous and plan for his death. But instead, they sold him into slavery in Egypt, where he went on to suffer. But it was here in this land of Egypt where Joseph was also able to make friends with a baker and a wine cupbearer. And it was the baker who would go on to die, and the wine cupbearer, though, who was the cupbearer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, who was able to share with Pharaoh that he knew of a person who could interpret dreams. So when Pharaoh had the dream that would lead to famine in the land of Egypt, Joseph was able to come and reveal to Pharaoh what that dream truly was. As Joseph was able to tell Pharaoh what that dream entailed, Pharaoh entrusted to Joseph all the power that he had. So this made Joseph the second most powerful person in all of Egypt. Here in the land of Egypt, Joseph's own brothers come to him and ask for food, and yet they did not recognize that it was him. Here, Joseph forgives his brothers and all that they have done in the past, and invites the whole family to leave the promised land and to move to Egypt. And this is very important because it is in the land of Egypt where the nation will be able to grow and prosper. But why is Genesis then so important for us to understand? Here we bear witness to God creating the world, but still being active, still being involved, in which God does not abandon the world, even when the world turns its back on God. When humankind enters into sin, leaving God and going on their own path, their own journey. God strives for a reunion among humankind and himself, among creation and himself. God, though, is the very first mover in this all, that we are able to understand God coming to us where we are and letting us know God still loves us. This book of Genesis, then, is something that we should also understand, where it has been attributed to Moses. However, it has had many authors and many editors over the years. Genesis took over 500 years when you account all of creation and everything else, and for it to be compiled into what it is we have today. compiled during the Babylonian exile around 587 to 538 BCE or BC. I hope that you enjoyed this Bible study today. If you do, I invite you to please subscribe to the channel and also hit the thumbs up button so that I will know you enjoyed this Bible study today.